Alright, so I want to do a video, just a quick rundown of my setup for mixing in Dolby Atmos. So, my main computer is, this is actually pretty old, it's a 2011 Mac Mini, and it's running Nuendo 8.3. It's running that version because it's the oldest version of Nuendo that supports the Dolby Atmos channel formats and monitoring formats. And because it's an older computer, it doesn't run the newer versions of Nuendo that well. But it's trucking along. It works fine for me. There's honestly not any features in the newer versions of Nuendo that I personally miss, so it works for me. So that's doing the mixing, and my setup is kind of based on how Bob Clearmountain has his Atmos set up. So I'm kind of mixing the stereo and the Atmos mix at the same time. So the faders down here in the main panner are just going to the stereo bus in my session. And then I have the last of every one of my sends is going to a 7.1.4 bus. Yeah, 7.1.4, not the typical 7.1.2 Dolby bed, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the nice thing there is those are post-fader sends, so they follow, of course, all the level and automation of the main faders, but I can also come in and trim them up and down if the balance needs to be a little bit different for the Atmos mix. And I'm not using any objects in this session on this song, but when I use objects, I'll just simply deselect the main bus and just send it out to whatever object bus I'm going to use. From there, so because I'm running an older Nuendo, it doesn't have the renderer built into it, which is quite okay. I ran Nuendo 11 for a while, and I honestly didn't love the workflow of the renderer built right into Nuendo. So what I'm doing is I'm coming out of here via Dante, and I'm going over to a MacBook Pro, and I'm actually running the latest version of Logic on this MacBook Pro because they built the renderer into the latest version of Logic, and I quite like it. I like it a little bit better than the actual Dolby Atmos renderer software. I like that I can write my pan automation for objects right into this Logic session. And I also like that if I want to do punch-ins on a mix, I actually have the track editing in front of me instead of, you can't really see when you do punch-ins in the Dolby Atmos renderer. You're just kind of, you can't edit the files or crossfade or anything like that. I'm sure it automatically crossfades, but you can't do any edits on the timeline, for example. So I have my basic template is a 7.1.2 bed, but I'm not sending anything to the 0.2. I've got 4 objects set up that are top front left, top front right, top rear left, top rear right, and those are connected to the 0.4 channels coming out of my Nuendo session. So right from the panner, which I forgot to talk about here, another good thing with Nuendo is that I actually have the full 3D multi-panner right on that send. So I can pan everywhere within that 7.1.4 bus. So the 0.4 channels are just connecting to these objects, so then I can pan right up into all 4 spots of the top channels right from my 7.1.4 bus. If I was using some objects, I would have some more channels here and just assign them as objects. And there's the renderer that's built right into Logic. Works great. You can, of course, select all your binaural settings and such. And then, so I run my channels on input while I'm mixing, and then record them in real time into Logic, and export the master ADM file from there. So that is a system that seems to work for me really well, and since these are both, I mean, the main Mac Mini is a 2011, the MacBook Pro is a 2015, so they're not super new computers, so this is a good way to kind of leverage the resources of both of them. Also, on this system, again, utilizing both computers, I'm using an amazing open source product called Audiogridder. It's donationware, so I highly recommend you check it out. And basically what it does is it allows you to use another computer on your local network as a DSP server. So I have all the plugins instantiated in Nuendo on the Mac Mini, and the actual processing is taking place on the MacBook Pro. So again, that's kind of just spreading out my resources. So this setup runs extremely smoothly. I really have no problems with any sort of audio dropouts or noises or anything like that, which is pretty good for a couple of old computers running some newer technology. But yeah, that's a setup that works for me. Oh, monitoring is all being handled inside of Nuendo. I've got my 5.1.4 monitoring system, and using the monitor inserts, I've got all my speaker processing there. So my delays, my bass management, and my EQs. All inside of Nuendo. No need for anything external. Works bloody awesome. Cool. Well, hope that was interesting, and maybe give you some ideas if you're looking at building an Atmos setup for yourself.